the nature of work has changed.
It's the Uber effect, right? Like everything's been Uberified. It's the gig economy coming for the white collar workers. We know that it's happening. It's already happening.
When I talk to people who are in their late 40s, 50s, whatever, they're going, well, I just want a job. And they want it to look like it was 10 years ago, 15 years ago. I go, no.
The market has softened. The demand is different.
You're going to be a contractor. You're going to be doing a variety of side hustles and gigs. Forget having a job. You need to think about what are your sources and streams of income and revenue.
Oh, yeah, just have a side hustle or be an entrepreneur. The fact is, it's really, 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 really goddamn hard.
Chances are it's not going to be one. It's going to be multiple streams, and it's going to look very hodgepodge and patchwork. And that's the way it is now. I'm going to tell you something that's going to blow your mind. Next year, the oldest members of Gen X turn 60. Yeah, right here. Now, while you're still trying to catch your breath from that tidbit, take into consideration that those kids we used to worry about, those millennials, the youngins who were entering the workforce, well, the oldest millennials are now in their 40s. They're in midlife. The thing is, you can't escape it. You can't hide from it. You can't run. Time and age, they're going to get you. They get all of us. The boomers ahead of us, Gen X, the millennials, we all are facing these things. Age and time is the great equalizer. And though we may view the world very differently because largely how we were raised, we have a lot in common. Today on the Advanced Adulting Podcast, my guest and I are going to cover a lot of these issues. Maureen Wiley Clough. If you don't know her already, you need to check her out. She's an older millennial, comes from the journalism and tech world, and who at age 37 was told, you're a dinosaur. Today, she is one of the top voices in business and in LinkedIn through her podcast, It Gets Late Early, where she talks in depth with executives and tech leaders about ageism, about the things that we all encounter. We thought it would be interesting to have a joint episode. So we recorded this at the same time, and she's released it to her audience, and I've released it to you all. It's a little different group, but there's a lot of crossover because the issues are the same. We're going to be talking about work, careers, ghosting, relationships, family. We're going to talk about culture, music, the difference, and of course, why Gen X has better musical taste. Caregiving, the loneliness crisis, our differences, but our similarities. There's some laughs, there's some gut punches, and there are plenty of, oh, damn, that's me. I know you're going to like it. It's a longer episode, but we cover so many aspects of growing older. I'll take a quick second and thank our sponsors, Jubilee TV and Threshold. They make all this possible, and they also help improve the lives of people like you and me who find themselves as a caregiver for an older parent or someone they love. Now, I hope you enjoy this conversation with Maureen Wiley Clough. I'm Bradley Richardson, and this is Advanced Adulting.
Okay, looks like we're working. We're working. We're cooking with gas here. Cooking with gas.
All right, so
we're live.
yeah,
What's happening? Welcome to It Gets Late Early. Today, I am joined by Bradley Richardson, who is the host of Advanced Adulting, which just really shines a light on all the realities behind the scenes, the stuff that really doesn't get talked about much about being an adult, which sometimes is not so savory, right? It's sometimes a little bit rough, but he calls it out. He brings guests on who share their perspectives, and he's just a solid dude. So I'm really happy you're here.
Thank you. Wow. Being a solid dude, that's the best compliment there. We can skip the rest. I mean, look, I try to. I mean, I don't always get it right, but I think that's part of life is just trying to figure it out along the way, isn't it?
It sure is. But I think you're killing it. And I love what you're doing with your show. I think you're having the conversations that really, really matter that we all need to hear and be a part of. And it's going to help us all feel a little bit less alone. And hey, that's worth a lot these days.
Well, I think that's part of it. And that's why I started this, especially, for, anybody watching this or social media, and there's, and again, I tend to curse. So sorry, earmuffs on this. Okay. There are so many bullshit artists out there now on social media and so much perfection, so much, curated narcissism out there that the idea of just keeping it real, because, and again, we both spend a lot of time on LinkedIn. When you have to take a course on how to be authentic, there might be a problem. And it's when I started Advanced Adulting, it's kind of my own chronicle, my own life, of, hey, there's no roadmap, guidebook, course for this. We're just trying to figure out stuff that affects us all, regardless of where you live, your background, how much money you make, your education, your race, and a lot of kinds. We all are going to experience a lot of these things, these equalizers, and that's what advanced adulting's about. So now, this is an interesting episode here because in a rare move, Maureen and I are recording this at the same time for both of our audiences. So if you are new to advanced adulting, if you know what we're about, we're going to have a great conversation with Maureen, but she's also talking to me for your audience as well. What I thought was so interesting when we first got to know each other and talk, as it's an interesting idea of this meeting of the minds, because there's so many different topics that we cover, as we're in the same lane, but kind of bookends. As the older Xer, as the older millennial coming into this stage of life, and also our backgrounds with recruiting, HR, business, life in general. And so we thought it would be interesting, Rhett, to talk about all these things, kind of the taboo subjects, with no filter, with no bullshit, no facade of these things, instead of just going, ageism is bad and you're right. No, it's like, no, here's the real deal. And that's really what this conversation is going to be about. So it's going to be a little looser than probably some of my folks are used to, although we keep it pretty loose anyway. But that's the deal. So.
Yeah, I'm stoked to get real with you. I think it's what people need to hear. It's how people are going to feel less alone, and we're not gonna gatekeep. We're not gonna hold anything back, and we'll say the quiet part out loud for you. So especially for those who don't feel like they can, right? So we'll be the voice for them.
Well, I love how you put that, though. I mean, one of the biggest things I think is important is, when in my experience, when you get people behind closed doors, you go out and, you're at the cookout or you go have a drink with them or whatever, and the wall comes down a little bit, you find out we have so much more in common. And it's that idea of being connected, being seen, being heard, yet everybody, again, it's not right. It just is. Everybody wants to kiss the ring. Everybody has to say the right thing, look the right way on LinkedIn or on social, or, I can't,
That's real. And there's a real good reason for it too. I mean, the people who step outside of that box often get penalized. That's the reality. And I mean, you've lived the corporate life too. I mean, I've been hired specifically for my experience to come into organizations because I know what I'm doing. And they're like, oh, we need you to help us shape this and blah, blah, blah. And when I come in and I'm like, ooh, like we should probably go in this direction. And they're like, hey, get out of here. And you're suddenly not invited to meetings. So it's like so much groupthink. It's dangerous even to share your expertise, which is kind of like what you're hired for, which is so bizarre. It's like
that's your expertise, but it's also, I mean, look, one of the great things in society, is, hey, be yourself. We celebrate you, but don't do that. Be yourself, but not
just
that
not
much.
Not that.
Yeah, you need to dial that back. You're a little much. You're a little extra.
So true.
And
it's not safe for everybody. It really isn't.
One of my favorite quotes is, again, I guess it's a very typical, the middle-aged man type of thing to quote Bukowski. But it's the idea of, who were you before the world put labels upon you? I'm paraphrasing, but that's really it. And so much of us, once you hit midlife, I understand the whole grumpy old man concept now of like, I really don't give a shit what anybody else thinks.
No fucks 40s, no fucks 50s.
No, because come on, we've subscribed and adhered to and played the game of what everybody has wanted us to be for so long in every aspect, professionally, personally. The whole
deal. So true. And where does it leave us so often? Very, very unsatisfied and disappointed. It's something that I realize now. I wish I'd known a lot earlier in my life, because it's like I was following this rule book, trying to climb the corporate ladder in a certain way in order to get to a certain life. And it just wasn't happening the way it was supposed to. And I think that's something that can be pretty resonant for a lot of people of all ages, but like particularly, I think those who are of the younger generations now, where the life that like my parents created is not really all that feasible for people who are younger now due to a variety of different things and just the way the world's unfolding. And so it's like there's a different relationship emerging with work that is not wrong, and it gets dumped on a lot by people. There's this intergenerational warfare that I find like deeply unfair, and it goes both ways, right? But at the end of the day, we're all just trying to do our best and have the best lives we can. And when you see that the contract is broken between employer and employee in, especially younger generations where you're not going to have the same earning potential, you're not going to have the same ability to buy a house, for example, to have that financial security, it's like, well, no wonder they're like, dude, I'm not just going to slave away for the man all day, right? Like that's not what's going to work for them because they know it's not going to pay off, right? So
100%. It's funny because, let's talk extra millennial stuff here, okay? Because we both bought into the bullshit and came of age professionally, and for those of you, whether you follow me or her or whatever, my background is I wrote the very first business book for GenX way back in the 90s. I wrote Job Smarts for 20 something.
So cool.
So it was this idea of when I'm 27 years old, and yes, pre-internet, thank you. But
Love it.
It was this idea of, okay, there was no roadmap for how we came of age professionally, because we were slackers, right? And it's this idea that, I think we were the last generation to really buy into that. You're going to go get a degree and you're going to get a job and you're going to work hard and you're going to play the game. You're going to kiss ass. You're going to perform. You're going to get and go up and the company will take care of you. And very quickly we realized that that's a load of crap. And then, especially now I'm in my 50s, as you raise kids, you do this, you go all through this stuff and you realize, wait a minute here, there's no retirement. We're going to be working forever. We're family. Bullshit.
If we can work.
Yeah, absolutely. Because
if we can get a job, that's a thing.
Yeah. And so we did that. And you got, it was not as we were told. Right. I'm not crying about that. That's just facts. Mm-hmm. And millennials, the same deal,
100%.
Hey, you're not family. They can let you go anytime.
We're learning the hard way.
You learn
the hard way. There's no such thing as loyalty. I mean, there really isn't. And companies want to expect it of their employees and then don't show the same in return. And people are like, the jig is up. We see what's happening here. And we're no longer going to proactively participate in it. We're going to do what's right for number one. So, my perspective has shifted so much when I think about the way I would approach a job search and what I would stand for and what I wouldn't. And I just now I see the red flags a mile away. And I'm like, no. And granted, at some points you have a financial reality where you just have to take a job to pay your bills. So absolutely understand that people sometimes aren't in a position of privilege enough to make those decisions besides taking it, right? But like ultimately, I think that people are waking up to this and they recognize, hey, if my company is saying that I can work remotely forever and I move across the country to be near an aging parent or whatever the case might be, to a better school district that has a lower cost of living or whatever. And then they pull it back and say, hey, actually in 60 days, you need to be returning to office, 50 plus miles away from your home and you want to uproot your life. No, like, that even if you do that, you don't have the protection that you're going to be there any longer. And I've heard instances of people who've done just that, who've been like, oh, they told me to RTO. So I hustled, I sold my house, I moved here, I did all the things, I made arrangements for my life. So that's possible. And they get there and they get laid off. And it's like, what the F? Like they didn't expect that you would actually do this. They didn't expect you to actually move. They wanted you to quit. And they didn't want to pay out severance or unemployment. So they were like, this is a cost savings, it's better for the PR. Like all of that is so legit. And people notice it now. And I think they're waking up.
They are waking up. And what's so funny is, a lot of us and a lot of extras, a lot of people in general, okay, it's across the board. You want to have trust. You want to have faith. And I'm not trying to be cynical here. But again, background, I was a headhunter. I was partner in one of the big search firms for a long time. I was in search business placing CFOs for over 15 years. I've been in the rooms.
The rooms where it happened, right? Yeah.
That goes down after, it should be this way. Yeah, it should be a lot of ways. You should eat your vegetables. You should not stew, but shit goes down. And what's funny is the duplicity of companies. And I can't tell you a couple of things. I can't tell you how many people, when they're the employer, when they're making those hiring decisions, they're thinking one way and it's this. And then once it happens to them, they'd call me. It's a totally different deal. And I think that is the idea of the way things should work when you're in the driver's seat. And the loyalty is a great example of that. And the deal is people know it. They just don't like to be called out on this. Okay. Okay. I'm not politically correct either. Shocker. But there's a great Dr. Phil quote or meme out there. And it was like, you're not big boned, you're fat. I'd sugarcoat it, but you'd probably eat that too. And I'm like, and
damn.
I love that. Sidebar, I got to work with Dr. Phil many years ago.
You did?
Yeah. So.
Oh my gosh, that must have been a trip.
Yeah, he's a real deal.
Yeah.
My point on that is employers, they don't like to be called out and told the truth on that.
No,
and
they like to be in the driver's seat.
Well, the loyalty and it's especially hiring older folks, right? Well, they're not going to stick around. We want someone who's going to grow with the company. And my answer to this, it's an unpopular opinion, but here's the thing. I tell them, and I tell people who I've worked with to use the same thing. You know what? What are you thinking about? I mean, some marriages don't last 3 years. Okay. And you're expecting me to build a company? No, that didn't work. And the other is, well, we want someone, what they don't say is we want someone younger. Well, hey, okay.
Sometimes they even do. It's crazy.
Well, yeah, but here's the deal. What no one says. Look, and I have 3 kids all in their 20s. Thank God are good, kicking ass and all that. But you know what? Versus, if you're going to hire the young person because you think they're going to stick, the moment they get tired of your shit, the moment they decide, I'm going to go to Bali, become an influencer and sell tacos, the moment they decide that I'm getting married and I want to move around, halfway across the country, or my mom is sick and I have to be a caregiver.
Yeah. They're gone. They're gone. They're gone. And the reality is people use those lines to exclude older workers all the time at these companies. But the fact is the data actually shows that older workers have higher and longer tenures than younger workers, which is wild. So that is a fallacy, the idea that so-and-so wouldn't be there for the long haul. And I know this happens all the time. I have friends who are out there searching for jobs and they get passed up at the last, after doing like 25 interviews through multiple months, being told that they're like the top or one of the top candidates, they lose out. And then literally they're told things like, oh, we wanted someone with a longer runway, or we wanted someone earlier in their career, which is basically like, that's all very age related, right? And it's infuriating because it's so hard to prove, right? It's so hard to prove ageism.
Oh God. Well, I think I'd shared with you the video I put up on YouTube. We've had, I think, maybe 700,000 people check it out. And it was about, I went on a rant once about what goes on behind once a week. About, it's kind of like, okay, let me just tell you the straight up what hidden ageism looks like from a recruiter's perspective. And that whole idea of, we want a longer runway. And again, not everybody, some people are introverted, and I'm not saying be combative, but it's the idea of what's wrong with calling that out.
Right.
You may not change their mind, but why be a sheep and just go along with it? And you
can do it in a way that makes sense, right? And it's not so in your face, and it'll work. Yeah.
But the point is, for anyone who is experiencing that, and you get the overqualified or you might not stick for a while, the example I use, default to sports analogies.
When in doubt.
Well, I mean, come on, you're a baseball girl.
So
it's the idea of a sports team, whether it is, baseball, football, whatever, they're going to go out and they're going to sign that free agent for a playoff run. And they're not building a team or a long career around that player. No, they're not. They're like, you're really good. You're at the end of your career, but you know what? You got a little bit of juice left in you, and we want that. So why don't you come on? If you're here for a season, for 2 years, awesome. That's an approach that I suggest a lot of people take when they're experiencing ageism.
That totally makes sense to me, especially when you look at the current environment and how short-sighted a lot of these companies are. They're just looking for what's going to happen this next quarter, and what's going to happen at the next earnings call. Like, how do we build for that? That is the reality of where we are today. So take a page out of their book and use it to your advantage in that way. I love that. That's a great call.
And it's not being selfish. It's not being selfish either.
No. But you got to look out for you. That's at the end of the day, I've realized that no one else is going to do it for you. And I wish I'd learned that earlier. There was sort of this ethos of like, if you just keep your head down and you do the good work, you'll be rewarded. That's absolutely not true. It's the people who actually are able to express what they've done, who will kind of, in some cases, obnoxiously sing their praises. They're the ones who get ahead. And you need to do it, because literally no one, your boss, no one else is going to do it if you don't.
Well, I think one of the biggest fallacies out there for a lot of people, I mean, and I think millennials, Gen Z, younger employees get this now, okay? And Xers are having a real hard time with this. Your qualifications don't matter, meaning best person doesn't get the job.
Yeah.
The best person does not get the job always.
It's not how it
There's
works.
so many other things.
There really are. There really
Yeah.
are. And some are in your control and some are not. But you have to your job is to put yourself in the best light and the best foot forward possible. That's your job as a job applicant. You got to do it. You got to know your strengths and lead with them and just, and own it, right?
It's interesting with the whole employment ageism thing. And it's real. It's just a real deal.
It's real. And it sucks for younger people too. I mean, ageism goes both ways, as we know. And like Gen Z is getting just pummeled. Like, gosh, Business Insider did a piece just the week before last that was the top story in BI. And it was all about how tech even has turned its back on Gen Z. And I was speaking, Amanda Hoover's the reporter who wrote it. And I said to her, typically tech is really super into the young people, but I think they love robots more. And like, if they can outsource your job to a different country for a lower cost or to AI for a lower cost, or even if they just think they can, you're toast. Like, that's just how it goes. And so I think people are waking up to the reality that things are really tough for people of all ages. And we're in a really uncertain time where we don't really know where we're going. We know everybody has to use AI in every company, every job. That is what we do know. It doesn't matter how old you are. And, you can look at that as like a death sentence if you want, or you can look at it as opportunity. It's kind of up to you. But we are in this moment where there's no handbook, like you said, even for advanced adulting, right? Like we don't get a guidebook on this thing, and we don't have one for the current day reality. We've got the genie of AI out of the bottle. We need to adapt to that evolving landscape. Like, it's gonna keep on shifting, and we have to keep on showing we can keep up. That's where we are.
Oh, absolutely. And I think the another piece to that, AI is a huge piece, but I think the other thing, and that New York Times piece on the GenX career meltdown came out a few weeks ago.
Yes.
Piece.
Was, yeah.
I don't care if you're a creative or not. It applies to everybody.
I agree.
But the thing that I think is interesting is, and look, that's a whole other podcast rabbit hole. But the nature of work has changed. The horse is out of the barn on this thing. And, when I talk to people who are in their late 40s, 50s, whatever, they're going, well, I just want a job. And they want it to look like it was 10 years ago, 15 years ago. I go, no, you're going to be a contractor. You're going to be doing a variety of side hustles and gigs. It is not, and instead of looking at it, I think I was talking to maybe Adam Posner about this or someone else like that, but it was this idea of forget a job. Forget having a job. You need to think about what are your sources and streams of income and revenue. And chances are it's not going to be one. It's going to be multiple streams, and it's going to look very hodgepodge and patchwork. And
absolutely.
That's the way it is now.
It's the Uber effect, right? Like, everything's been Uberified. It's the gig economy coming for the white collar workers. We know that it's happening. It's already happening. And I have people who reach out to me who are like, dude, I try to get a job today, the same job that I got 5 years ago. A, no one's calling me. And B, when I actually look at the range of pay for that same job, it's like 20 to 25% less than what I left it at in 2021. The market has softened. The demand is different. Corporate jobs are shifting, and this is the way it's going. And do I like it? No, I wish we could still go and work for one company that treated us well and give us a gold watch in 30 years, but that's not where we are. And we have to just embrace the reality of it. And by the way, like, I think there's a lot of glorification of just have a side hustle or be an entrepreneur. The fact is, it's hard. It's really, 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 really goddamn hard. And you're going to have to become a salesperson. That's another person I talked to recently was like, dude, I know how to do this work. Like, I'm super good at my area of expertise, but I don't know how to fucking sell myself. And that's what you are as a consultant in this gig economy. You have to routinely sell yourself over and over again. So we all have to shapeshift in ways that I don't think anyone necessarily saw coming this quickly, but we're there. And it's one of those, like, you got to kind of suck it up. And I don't like it any more than you, but that's where we are.
Well, and yes, 1,000% on that one. But the hard part, the part that I wrestle with, and a lot of people, I think personally wrestle with, but no one likes to admit. Let's go back to how we started this conversation off about the whole, bullshittery of social media. I swear to God, if I hear the word personal brand one more time,
God. Okay. Visionary thought leader.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Self-proclaimed.
Best-selling, number one author. Top 1%. Total. Well, I say sidebar, but that's what this is for. That's what this whole conversation was about. Is we have lots of different rabbit holes we're going to go down this weekend, and we'll talk about the guidebook for life in a minute. But this weekend, I got overwhelmed. Okay, and that sounds weak. I don't think I'm a weak individual at all, but Man, and you go back to Posner. I mean, he put up a post about this, and he and I connected back and forth on something. But it was just this idea of there's so much information, so much marketing messages, so many things coming at you, so many how-to best practices, optimize, maximize, all this. Look, dealing with. You're right. Running a business, being an entrepreneur. There's so much shit you're dealing with swirling around. It's like making cotton candy. There's all this
Crazy
stuff around. I just, I couldn't shut my brain off. Okay. And I deal with anxiety anyway. And so this was, I told Shannon, I spent 2 days and I unfollowed, put on hold or muted 3,000 people.
Damn.
I shit you not.
Wow.
I went through and at first it started with, anybody that was like scalable, maximize, any of those buzzwords.
10x ROI.
Well, no, anything like that. Anybody that called themselves a queen, a boss babe, anything like that. Any alpha,
I'm gonna be sick.
Any scale, any thought leader. Going down, look at your description. And some of them, are people that are big names, household names. I'm sorry, I got rid of Jay Shetty. Okay, I couldn't deal with it. But it was the idea of things that just didn't bring any positive energy. Okay, and not to get all woo here, but it really was. I thought, wait a minute here. I don't give two shits about this person in my life. We don't know, and some of these people I do know. Some of these household names, we are friends, but I'm just like, I can't take the whole constant comparison. You're less than, and I know some people, at least in my audience, I'll get flamed somehow of like, oh, that's just weak. You're not, dude, I know some.
I don't think that's fair.
Nah,
I think it's real, right?
It's real.
It's real.
Because why are we sitting there thinking, oh my God, if I'm not making X, if I don't have a perfect ass, 6-pack abs,
loser.
Yeah, if I'm not living in Miami, dating a hot Colombian driving a Lambo, I suck. And
by 25, by the way, you have to have done all of that by 25. You're such a has-been, dude.
Well, yeah, or on LinkedIn's the other one too. It is, sorry, I know we're going to be there, but it is. You know who I get a crack out. I just crack up at is John Kraske.
Oh yeah, I love his stuff. It's hilarious.
Kind of putting it up there.
Very funny. Like this is ridiculous. Make sure everyone knows this is ridiculous. It's amazing.
And I think that's
we need more of that energy.
We do, but I think my point, and I know I'm not alone on this because there are some some people who I really respect who are big names who are just like, I'm done with the information overload. I'm done with this. I got to turn my brain off, and it's remarkable how you change your feed when you do that. Hey, we'll get back to the conversation in just a few seconds, but I want to tell you about something you need to know about, especially if you have an older mom or dad or loved one who lives on their own. ARP just did a survey earlier this year that found over 75% of people want to live on their own or age at home. They don't want to go to a community or facility. They want their own freedom and independence. And that's awesome. But that also raises a whole other set of problems if you're a caregiver. What if mom doesn't get out of bed for a day? How would you know? What if she fell in the shower and broke her shoulder and remained there for a day with no one to help her because you live 2 states away? That happened to me. What do? Yeah, you can get cameras, wearable monitors, and all kinds of things like that. But if you have a stubborn parent like I did, I don't want anybody in my business. I don't want anybody watching me like Big Brother, even you. I understand they value their privacy and their independence. That's where Threshold comes in. It's a Wi-Fi motion sensor that you can plug into your wall. It's no cameras, no microphones. It's non-invasive. It looks like your iPhone charger, and you stick it in a wall, and it sets up a perimeter that is a motion detector. So you can tell if someone's moving or not moving. It's smart enough to tell the difference between mom's pet and mom. And you can get reports and information right there on your phone to see if there's anything unusual or if there's no movement, which is important as well. It's easy. You plug it into the wall, you connect to the Wi-Fi, and within 5 minutes, you're able to get this on your phone, and mom or dad don't have to do a thing. It's no burden to them, and they get to keep their privacy, independence, and you get your peace of mind. It's super inexpensive. And best of all, there are no subscription fees, monitoring fees. You just buy the unit and it's good to go forever. Go to threshold.care, order your starter kit, $60, and use code adulting20 for 20% off. I'm happy that they are a partner and sponsor of Advanced Adulting. Go check them out. Your parents and you are going to thank me later. Now, let's get back to the conversation.
Yeah, that's actually a really strong idea. I should actually take some time and sit down and do some filtering. That's a good call. Probably lessens the extent of the anxiety in your nervous system a lot. Like, I don't need this. I don't need this. I don't even like it.
No, I don't. I guess the way I'm wired in this, you full disclosure, some of this just pissed me off. It was just kind of like, I'm hustling here trying to do this or keep it real, whatever. And I have a lot of answers, just like you do, but I don't claim to have them all. I'm still trying to figure this out.
We're all trying to sort our way through this.
And, when I see someone out there and it's like, oh, this other, look at me in, warrior one pose, and look at me at this meal that I've done and all this.
Seriously, you see that on your feed on LinkedIn?
Oh, from grown-ass men.
Wow.
And I'm just like, really? Yeah.
That is wild.
Look at the parking lot. High performers get up early in the morning and look at this picture of this parking lot full of Ferrari. I shit you not.
Ice baths.
Ferrari and Porsche, and you need to be a high performer. I'm like,
you're like, that's not what this is all about.
See, your kids
get back to me in a few years. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's that sounds like a cesspool of misery. I do not have a feed like that. I guess I'm fortunate to say. Yeah, I am like morbidly curious though. I kind of want to go see that that's real. Like, wowza.
Well, okay, let's go there.
I believe you.
No, okay. So I've had some conversations with mutual friends of ours, and it was just interesting how it manifests itself on LinkedIn, though. Okay, because I have a huge following on some of the other platforms. Okay, so that's for those of you that are Maureen's audience here. But on LinkedIn, it's the idea of if I see another 8-figure guy telling me that the solution to midlife is paying $5,000 a week to go at Cabo and sit on a beach and meditate and hang out with the shaman and Gail King, or that your role model for being a midlife male is Beckham or someone like that. I go, okay,
that's cute.
It's But that's,
I mean, Beckham.
Standard.
Come on, man.
Look, Beckham and I have in common because we both wanted to marry Spice Girls. That's it.
Which one was your favorite Spice Girl?
Well, I like 3.
Were you? You like 3 of them? Okay.
I kind of
baby, sporty.
Oh no! I dug Scary and
Scary, yeah.
And
wait, who was she? Oh, baby
Ginger,
Spice.
That's it. Ginger.
Or Ginger Spice. God, I should know this. This was like my era. I mean, I used to make up dances to Spice Girl songs back in the day.
She and I give each other a hard time about this. She's like, "Look, I know that's your secret, old time crush on that,
I'll pass."
Her, yeah, exactly. Hers, I swear to God, I never, I never want her to meet, like Bret Michaels. It'd be bad.
I don't know who that is. Who's Bret Michaels?
Okay, if you got any extra people here, seriously,
You're like, you can tell. Spot the millennial. Let's play Spot the millennial.
Poison, the lead singer for Poison.
Oh. Poison, like that one, that song?
No.
Oh, see,
no, that's Bell Biv DeVoe.
Okay, wow, you're schooling me on this music trivia.
Oh, no. Every rose has a thorn,
Oh, every rose has. Okay, yeah. So I've heard that. Okay, Bret Michaels. Okay, I'll look him up.
We can have a whole episode. See, okay, so this is a year and a half ago. We went to a concert. We went to see Def Leppard, Motley Crue, and Poison. Okay, all playing together in Dallas. And you look at the audience, okay? And again, millennials are probably like, again, you went Bell Biv DeVoe, which I like too. But never trust a big butt and a smile. There you go.
Is that a lyric?
Yeah. We speak in lyrics, okay? Any lyrics are worth their salt will tell you they speak in 80s lyrics.
And movie quotes, right? I feel like that's a thing too. Yeah.
Completely. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we went to see Motley Crue and Poison and Def Leppard. We look around and I kid you not, I mean, everyone was 50 and up.
So
Right.
you're like, my peeps, I love it. Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, that's great. When I go to my gym, they play like routinely just the solid jams that I heard during my college years. It's so much fun. It's like Ashanti, Ja Rule, like all. It's just so good. And I'm like, yes, I want to go. It really helps. But yeah, I'm like, you guys are my people. I love this. I love this. It's a thing.
Very nice.
Yeah,
Wow.
it helps. It's inspiring. It's a push.
So I got a question for you. Let's change this up on one of our topics that we were talking earlier about guidebooks, rule books, and how there really are none.
You should throw them out if you have one.
Especially for careers and jobs. But I think one of the tenets of advanced adulting is just that. Look, there's no rule book for this. I mean, look,
You do you, man.
when you're 27, you don't sit there and think, I wonder what my second marriage is going to be like. I wonder what it's going to be like today. And I'm going to tear it up after that.
Yeah, but that's real, man. We should be telling our kids, hey, this might not be forever. So like,
oh man, as a parent, anybody that's a parent out there. So like, again, my kids are, I got 3 of them in their 20s. One's married. Fantastic. And the other 2 are in very, very committed relationships. And it's so funny because you want to just go, okay, let me tell you how this really goes. Okay. Let me
break it down for you.
Let me break it down for you on what you probably need to consider here on this. But you can't, you really have to kind of let them.
Let them figure it out.
No, I mean, I had this conversation with many people who are divorced. I mean, my mother and my sister, the week before I got married, they were like, "You sure you want to do this?" Because they'd seen, you're the people that love you can tell. They're like, "Are you sure?" And you're like, "No, not
unless they just really want you booed up, like off the family payroll potentially."
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
go.
And I can't tell you people I've talked to, they're like, oh, or I knew, I just kind of felt obligated. I felt I had to go through this.
Invitations went out already.
What are people going to say?
Yes, exactly. What are people going to say? That drives so much human behavior. And who cares what people say? Continue, sorry.
Well, no, and it's just funny. We talk about that relationships. Boy, we do go off on tangents, don't we?
We do. We're good at this.
I
Stay with us, folks.
Well, I want to go back to the rule book for friendships in a moment.
Yes.
But one of the, to this whole idea of what people think. My youngest lives in New York City now, and before he went to college, he was the most anxious of them all. And he was just concerned about what everybody thinks. And he goes, "Hey, I'm just really scared about making the right choice on college and the right choice on what I major in and all that." And I said, "I'm going to save you 30 years. Okay." And he goes, "What?" And I go, "We're going to die." He's like, "What?" I go, "I'm going to die. Your mom's going to die. Your grandparents. Okay. All of us. In 30 years, we may be here. We may not. Your brother and sister are living their own lives. And so the point is, when you're in, 45 years old, no one's going to give a shit. And so you do you. We want to protect you. We want to support you. We want to make sure you don't make any really bad choices. We'll save you from yourself. But, you do you. And that's it." And I wish someone had told, me that. I know a lot of people, just go.
Me too. I think that's fantastic. And I wish that I'd heard that, because I realize now that I did so many things to live up to the expectations of both my parents and society. And my parents were looking out for me. They wanted the best for me. They were thinking, take this path because this path is the quote right way. And they wanted to ensure that, I had a good life. So I understand the impulse for it. And I totally get that. But when it doesn't feel right to you, I felt like I was wearing a mask a lot of the time, right? Like I was doing things, checking boxes, taking these steps, and then I'd get there and I'd be unhappy. And so I got really good at quitting. Like I'm an excellent quitter. When I don't like something, I am fucking out. And that really helped me learn resilience, because every time I quit, I would have to figure out something else, right? And I'd go into these new arenas that I knew nothing about, and then I'd figure it out. So I started to gain self-confidence. And my parents finally at one point, they were like, we never really understand like the moves you make and why you're doing them, but they always really work out. So like, good, sweetie. But let me tell you, when I was like, hey, I'm going to start a podcast, they were like, come again? Like, what about this corporate world? Or what are you doing? And I'm like, I gotta explain, like, things have changed. It's not the way it used to be. And I can't have the career that you did, right? And it's a new world. But they eventually get there. I was fortunate enough to be featured in Forbes recently, and I sent it to my parents. They're like, "Oh, wow, okay, we get it." But it took, I'm like, just believe that this is going to work. And even if this had crashed and burned, at least I would have known whether or not it could have been a thing. And I wouldn't have had to live with the regret of what might have been, because that was really what pushed me. At the end of the day, that was the number one fear that I had. And I knew I couldn't live with myself if I didn't go for it. And that is something that I think I would never have been able to do, like something so public, I guess I should say, back, in my 20s and 30s. I wasn't ready. I was still wearing that mask. I was still so worried about how I was perceived by others. And now, spotlight effect, I realize no one's friggin' thinking about me at all anyway. So do what you want. So I love that you gave your son that gift of that knowledge. That's so awesome. Like, bravo, good parenting. Not that my parents weren't good. They were great. They just had a different worldview.
Well, I look, I mean, for every one of those, I have two where I screw the pooch. So that's okay.
Everyone's going to need therapy no matter what we do with our children. So there you go.
Exactly. And that's what your first child's for.
Oh boy. Oh boy. Yeah. Yep. It's a practice.
Oh, my dad didn't see this one. Oh, but yeah. So let's talk friendships for a minute, because
let's go there.
Before we went off on our other rabbit holes, we're talking about this idea. There is no roadmap or guidebook for a lot of things: relationships, career, life, anything. But it's friendships are an interesting, because I see people who you hit a certain this big pivot, oftentimes after a divorce, okay, or when that first giant milestone. And you realize, especially for men, I think women do a much better job with developing friendships and maintaining those. Men, it's harder. But one thing that this loneliness epidemic for people in midlife is a real deal as well. And whether it's, you're too proud or brave to say anything. But one thing I think is interesting is this idea of, how friendships dissolve. And they're not necessarily a, screw you situation.
More often than not, no.
They just die.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's an interesting thing. I want to talk about that for a second, about
absolutely
the idea of loss of energy, ghosting, and friendships in general.
Yeah, we talk all the time about ghosting in the realm of employment, but not so much in the realm of friendship. And yeah, that's absolutely something that happens. It's not just dating. It's not just the workplace. It's friendships too. And whether that means you just kind of drift apart slowly, or whether someone just stops returning your text or something, it's a thing. And it's a loss, right? And I think it's something that I didn't anticipate. I think I grew up close-knit community in terms of the high school I went to and whatnot, all these wonderful friends, went to college, made incredible friendships there, went to college across the country from where I live. And so that was great. And then it was opening my worldview to other things. I was getting new experiences and all that stuff. It was not so great in that the relationships that I made then were geographically, difficult, right? Because no one lived near one another. So, and it struck me as extremely hard to make real, lasting, legitimate, deep friendships as an adult, because of the fact you don't have those like casual run-ins with people. You don't have that same environment. You have a busy, full plate, and it's hard to prioritize that friendship. And it takes so many hours to really get to know someone. And what I realized is, I think just like dating, I think people like really fast forward on that. Like they speed through it. They're trying to like be vulnerable and be insightful and like get together and share so much. And I think it's weird, because I think it creates this faux sense of connection that maybe doesn't even necessarily really exist, right? It's like you're both trying so hard to fast track the friendship so that you have something. So that's something I've witnessed like over and over again in my adult life. And I don't know how to navigate that, because I mean, I don't even have time for the people I love the most right now. And that's kind of a jarring thing to come and really sit with. And it, I think, lends itself to these deep, awful feelings of loneliness. Even if you're surrounded by people, there is just a gap and an emptiness that I think a lot of us do feel as busy adults trying to hack it, whether we're hacking it in corporate, whether we're doing that and a side job, whether we're doing something like what you and I are doing that's more entrepreneurial. It's just so hard to juggle it all. It really, really is.
I think what's interesting, and this is an interesting perspective. It's one reason we're having this conversation from different viewpoints.
Yeah.
As someone who's in that older Gen X area, I don't know whether it's personal. I don't know whether it's a personal perspective. I don't know whether it's age, being a man. I don't know. But I don't see as much of the fast tracking of friendship as I do just a reluctance. Just a, it's okay. I'm good, but I'm still lonely. I'm okay. This incredible judginess of things. Yet the challenge is everybody wants to be asked to the dance. And I think that is the big challenge I see, and is people want good friendships. They want the deep relationships. They want something beyond surface level, but I don't want to have to work for it. And what I mean is we came up, and maybe it's a generational thing, because it's this idea of so many of us are in my peer group. Now, look, where do you go to play? Hey, we're running the neighborhood. You're out all night. You're going down playing by the creek. You want to find out what's up? Hey, I'm going to go. There are all the bikes. There's, can Brian come out to play?
My gosh.
And people knocked on their door.
Yesteryear. Yeah, it's so different than today. It's like helicopter parenting. Yeah.
God. But the thing is, we still hang on to that idea of, God, I don't want to have to be the one doing all the work. Why am I the one having to do that? I wish that. And I've talked to people I've worked with about this. It's this idea of you just want someone to send a text. You just want someone to make the call. You want someone, you're not looking for your lifelong BFF, but hey, you know what? Hey, you want to go to dinner? You want to go drink? Whatever it is. And yet we won't take the thing. I think the greatest cure to loneliness for people in midlife is actually getting out of your comfort zone, as uncomfortable as it is, and making that first move, and fully realizing that a third of the people are going to say no. A third of the people are just going to be whack jobs. And you're like, oh my God, it's a one and done.
Whoops. Yeah,
absolutely.
Lose my number.
And a third are going to be like, there's my people.
Yeah.
And that's a hard thing to think of.
It is. And I think, you were asking yourself the question of, is this because I'm a Gen Xer? Is this because I'm a dude? Like, what is this? And I had a guest on my show named Max Dickens. He's an author, and he wrote a book called Billy No Mates, which was about how he realized he had no friends as an adult. And he's like, what the hell? I'm like the banter guy. I'm like the go to the bar, hang out with, buy a round of drinks. Like, I'm a comedian, for fuck's sake. Like, where are my friends? And he realized this when he was getting married to the love of his life. And he was like, oh my God, I don't have anyone. It was like, I don't have anyone to stand up next to me. And it's like the book version of I Love You, Man, the Paul Rudd movie, right? So, and he was great. He's a hilarious British guy. But he was talking about this issue and how persistent it is. He did a deep dive on it and how it impacts a lot of men. And it also worsens in midlife, by the way. And, obviously is a contributor to the epidemic of loneliness that we were discussing. But he had the same point of view as you, in the sense that he's like, he called it the Sherpa. He's like, be the Sherpa, be the one who sends the text. Be the one who tries to get people out there getting together. And I read that book, and I like not so subtly like threw it over to my husband. I was like, hey, you might like this one. And now I'm seeing him take the steps from the book, because I'm like, Dave, you don't see all your friends ever. Like you don't ever reach out to them, whatever. And he's like, you're right, I really don't. So now he's actually taking it upon himself to be the person who's initiating stuff. And lo and behold, like they come out of the woodworks and they hang out and like they have a great time. And I'm like, look, because up until then I'd been like, can I arrange a play date for you? Because he just would like not do it. And I'm like, I can't take on this role. Right. I was like, oh my gosh. But I'm like, see, aren't you happier when you actually go? I'm like, please go. I got the kids, go. Yep. And every time he does, he's so much happier. So yeah, is it a little uncomfortable? Yeah. Do you wish someone asked you to the dance? For sure. But like taking that step, being the Sherpa, I think is a surefire way to make your life just more meaningful.
Well, I agree with you. And I think the other interesting thing about this is, so many of us believe that history means connection. Longevity means connection, and it does not. And I see this in work friends. Okay. Oh, we're so tight. We're family. We're so tight. They're my best friend. Well, great. Well, what happens when one of you leaves, one of you gets shit canned, then, that you disperse, and your work bestie, your work wife, your work husband, whatever, what do you have in common anymore? Nothing. Outside of that company, very, very. Sometimes they stay, but
you never quite know. You never quite know until you go whether it's got staying power or not. And
Absolutely.
I've had people that I thought would be ride or dies that would stay with me. And once the work connection was gone, it just fell apart. And then I've had people like I was part of a layoff once, and I had people who I thought I was really close to who literally didn't even reach out to me after I was gone. And I was like, that's bullshit. Like, just be like, how are you doing? I'm sorry that happened. Like, it's not hard.
No,
It's not hard.
well,
So not a real friend, right?
absolutely.
You learn.
And the same goes for, I say that history doesn't make a connection. And you and I've talked about this offline. I'll share it. I mean, look, there over the past couple of years, there have been two, I would say lifelong friends, but 25 plus year friends that those friendships are no more. I think you asked, so did they pass away? No, they didn't pass away. The friendships died. They didn't. But it wasn't F that guy. It was just a matter of they lost energy. Our lives changed dramatically. And then also for me, with one of them in particular, it was just, wait a minute here. They're not a bad guy at all, but they're definitely not supporting me. And by that, I don't mean being my cheerleader, but it's just kind of like, there's always that nagging, really? What are you doing? What's that about? You're like, dude, I don't expect you to, blow smoke up my ass, but be in my corner or not.
Right.
Okay?
It's
And
simple.
'cause I get, life's hard enough. I don't need the digs from my favorite
My
people.
God, yes, I so agree with you.
Yeah.
And they do come from your favorite people often. It's wild, starting something from scratch and doing so publicly is a really vulnerable thing to do. It's very, very frightening. I mean, to the extent that like I almost didn't do it. And then I was like, okay, I can't have that regret at the end of the day of not giving it a shot. And plus I failed before, quit things before, and it worked out. So I'm just going to go ahead and believe in myself here. But the people who you would expect would be not necessarily, like you said, your cheerleaders, but would like be there and be like clapping for you to keep going are the ones who will kind of ghost you. They'll like not be present. They won't even ask you about it. They'll be uncomfortable. Like, and it's, I at least, I'm grateful that I have lived long enough and had enough experience in my own world to know that it is truly not about me. It is 100% about them being uncomfortable with taking a risk and it not being the sort of path that they would go on themselves. And so their concern, their lack of support, their lack of enthusiasm, it has nothing to do with you and everything to do with them. So what has been a beautiful sort of silver lining of that is, obviously, first of all, I understand the meaning behind their lack of support and I don't take it personally. It is disappointing, but I don't take it personally. But I've also found these wonderful friendships that have come literally from meeting people online, like not kidding, with other people similarly situated, doing things like this, who understand my new world and are there to help usher me through or build it together. And that's been really beautiful. And those, I think, hopefully they aren't like the work friendships we just discussed. It's just like fade away if we move on. But like those have been really surprising to me and really have buffeted me as I've gone through this, because it's been really, really hard to build this. It's been extremely difficult. And I emotionally, right, like to go through it at day in, day out. And especially when the rest of your world doesn't really understand what you're doing because it's so different from what they do. That friendship that has come and emerged from that has been really, really, I'm grateful for it. I have a lot of gratitude for it.
Good. Well, I mean, nothing scares the people close to you than you growing.
Exactly.
I mean, you growing is going to piss a lot of people off because, and that's just it. And
I know you this way. What are you doing? Who are you?
And that's really it. You hit it on the head because it's like, oh, well, you don't do that. You don't like that. You never said anything. That's not you. Well, okay. But
right.
I'm trying to be better here.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the hard part is when you leave a lot of people behind. And that doesn't make you selfish. It doesn't make them bad. It's just kind of like, okay.
It just is. It just is. And, I think we often quote the concept of you're the average of the 5 people you hang out with most, right? And over the course of time, it's like, are you with the people who are helping you move forward in the direction you want to go or not? And you have to kind of take stock of that. And so I haven't had any, like, in this regard, like any sort of friendship breakup per se, but I have had like this sort of just gradual shifting where it's like, okay, well, we'll maybe see each other occasionally, but it's not the same. It's not the same sort of typical cadence of hangouts, right? And like I think both people kind of know what's happening, and so it can be a little awkward sometimes because it's like, oh, I used to hang out with you all the time, and now I just like don't. But I know what's happening and I'm cool with it. Like, this is the choice, right? Like this distancing is a choice on both sides and it's not personal. It's just a thing. So I feel like that's something that if it had happened to me or when it did happen to me in my 20s, it would be like code red. This is awful. Oh my gosh, my life's over. Like I gave so much to this friendship and now it's kind of losing steam. And now I'm like, bye. It's okay. Like, love you. You know?
Didn't you say that you're going to go back to your 20th college reunion?
Yes, that's next month. Or this month. Oh my gosh.
Let's put postmortem on that. That's going to be an interesting one right there.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
I have a lot of different feelings about going back, but most of them are happy. Most of them are excited feelings. But yeah, it's definitely kind of it throws you for a loop, right? Like, wow, 20 years have passed. It feels like yesterday. It's so weird.
So let me tell you as the big brotherly advice on this one.
Thank you. I need it.
What's going to be weird, okay? And anybody watching this, you're going to go, oh yeah, maybe it is you. I hope it's not you. But when you see the people that you went to high school or college with, and you look from across the room, you're like, whose Nana's that? Who's that?
Who's Nana? Oh yeah, wow. Like, seriously.
Oh, I know. Oh my God, I went to high school with that person. And you're like, oh my God.
We're the same age. Yeah.
You're the same age. And you're like,
people age differently.
Wow. People age differently. People, you're going to talk about one thing. And you're like, oh my God, you have like 5 grandkids already. Or it's interesting. I mean, you start to see this divergent path in people's lives, and there's no right or wrong. It just is. But that's an interesting, that is an interesting observation that'll make you think when you experience that personally for the first time.
Yeah, I'm kind of, wow. I will definitely give you a postmortem on that. Yeah, it's going to be.
And anybody watching this, chime in. Tell me.
Yeah, tell me like what's good. Have you guys been through a college reunion? How did it go? High school reunion?
Yeah. So I think
I'm curious what people think.
I didn't get to go, but I think this past year was my 40th high school reunion.
Oh, wow.
Is that right?
What a trip.
Yeah, the big trip. Yeah, definitely.
It's all so crazy. I can't even believe it.
It gets
even believe it.
It gets early.
It gets early. Thank you.
Let's the thing I wanted to talk about, and we were talking about all these different topics, and again, is
so many things.
This idea of, I hear a lot of people say, well, that's not right. Everybody's on their self-righteous soapbox, right? Of, Xers think this is right, or, Gen Z thinks this is right. Look, it's fluid. It changes. You bet how you dress, all these different things. Everything is different as we matriculate life. But work is different. But I think there's some things that we've talked about that I believe are timeless. Yeah. And that stand the test of time. And I think that we experience it and I'm talking about, it can be professional, it can be personal, but I think communication is one of those things. We have a Zoom call. Look, I mean, we have Zoom calls now and people are in their PJs. People are in hoodies or whatever. And I saw a picture of my first job, and even the back cover of the Job Smarts book. I mean, I'm all Gordon Gecko'd out in a tie and,
that's awesome.
Braces.
Gordon Gecko'd out.
Oh yeah. I had hair too. It's great. But now, so those things have changed, but I think one of the things that communication and professional communication never goes out of style, regardless of your medium. I mean, it may be this and 2 thumbs. It might be a Zoom. And, you and I had talked, I mean, last month, there were 3 different people who had reached out to me in a professional setting about doing business together. And they led with, hey, bro. Okay. And I'm like, I'm a 58-year-old grown ass man. Okay. I will, we can get there fast, but I mean, to lead with that, or sub.
It's just, oof. Yeah. And you can be too casual. You can't. Too familiar. Too casual. Yeah. That's the thing.
And I think that's the thing is, look, you can wear, again, this is more for the LinkedIn folks out there or whatever, but you talk about what to wear on a job interview or what to wear to work or what to wear to an event. And like, okay, Shannon's at she's out of town right now and a business conference. And she's like, I think I'm going to be too overdressed. I think I'm going to be overdressed on this. And it was interesting. But, the dress thing is fluid, but it goes back to, I don't think how you communicate can ever go out of style, regardless if you're 21 or 51. Good communication plays every which way.
Absolutely. And unfortunately, a lot of that isn't common sense. And a lot of people do not know they shouldn't lead with, hey, bro, sup. Like, that's just not, if you're looking to do something together professionally, that's just not how I would make it happen. But it's, I think it's sad in some regards because we do have these different norms of communication, and they're not necessarily right or wrong. They're different, modalities that we use, maybe different mechanisms. Like we might have a Slack kind of thing. Like maybe we want to communicate on Slack, and another person is a big email person versus another person who loves the phone, right? But we don't have these ability, or we do have the ability. We don't often these days. Okay, let me back up and say that differently. These days, it is less often that we have the opportunity to sit side by side with people who have been there, done that in the professional space, right? Who could show you the ropes on how to show up professionally. And it's certainly not being taught in college, right? So, a lot of people will throw insults at Gen Z as a collective whole, like as though they're all the same, of course, which is funny, and say that they don't know how to be professional. It's like, well, how did we learn how to be professional? We were taught by our peers in the office. And now there's a lot of remote work. There's a lot of hybrid work. Like we just don't have that sort of built-in, almost accidental mentorship. And so that one really irks me because it's like, you can't blame people who weren't given the same opportunity to not have the same skills that we have, right? And some of it, again, I would say like the sup bro, it's probably going to fall under like the common sense bucket for me, but like other stuff, not so much. And I just think like we've lost, like you said, everybody's so self-righteous. Everyone wants to point fingers at someone else. And it's like, can you just be nice to other people who happen to be different from you in one way or another? It's just, I don't know. It's rough, but I do believe like there is a certain way you can show up and it's timeless. And it's just like, it really comes down to respect. Like, sup, bro? Like, come on, man.
I harped on that because that was just so extreme.
It is so extreme. There are lesser variations of that. For sure.
But I also think it extends to follow through, things of that nature. I mean, it's simply confirmation, and maybe I am playing the old man card. I don't know. Get off my yard. But it is. I mean, it's the things of, I see it fairly often in terms of, look, when someone wants something, I mean, give them as much information as they need.
Right. Exactly. Put yourself in the other person's shoes is what I have to say about that. Like, people don't really seem to do that often, and you would think that they would know. And I'm talking about people of all ages doing that too. I mean, here's a great little story for you. I recently had someone reach out multiple times, was commenting on my posts, DMing me, "Hey, we should get together. I think I should be on your podcast. I want to be a guest, blah, blah, blah." I finally am like, okay, I'm going to meet with this person. This person doesn't show up to the first meeting, which was rough because I had set time aside. Apologized profusely. Hey, it happens. I am ADHD. I lose stuff. I mess things up. Things fall off my calendar. That's fine. So you get another shot. Next time we meet up, late again. And then I'm told, hey, so in your intros in your podcast, do you do XYZ? And I was like, so you've been begging me to come on my show, but you haven't even watched it? Are you kidding me? Like, why am I here? This is so like disrespectful of my time. And that to me is just a very clear, obvious lack of professionalism and common sense. It's like, don't hunt me down to participate on something of mine if you literally don't even know it. Like, no, that's unacceptable. So it's disrespectful to me, in my view. So I was like, oh, click.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's so funny. I mean, there's so many ways. There's a master class on this again, another big social media word, right? Let's take your master class
everywhere.
That was my new elite mastermind.
Oh yeah, mastermind for $8 billion.
And anybody that's watching this, think, God, you're kind of a jackass on this. No, I've been that jackass. I've been the guy doing this, so I can talk shit on it because I know exactly what goes in on that.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Yeah, I think it's just we take the path of least resistance so often now, and this is why, okay? Because no one either has the conversation or thinks it through. It's just, 2 thumbs in 10 seconds and boom, I'm off. And I think that causes a lot of problems.
Right. We run too fast.
We do. But the other thing, and this is for anybody, and this is so funny I believe this to be true for, professionalism, for relationships, for anything. The bar has been lowered so dramatically. That's a whole other thing about midlife dating and relationships.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, the bar is so low right now that, sad to say, if you do the bare minimum, these things that are so common sense to some people, you fill in those gaps and go just a little bit extra or do this. It's sad. Customer service is a great example. When you do those things that used to be such commonplace, you're like, wow, look at them. They're amazing. No, they're just doing what
My
you
God.
gotta do.
Well, and you teach people how they can treat you, right? Like I have friends who are on the dating scene, and I remember one time one of them, a dude called her and left a voicemail, and the whole friend group was like, oh my God, what a winner, hold on to him. And I was like, wait, that's not normal? Like, you guys don't expect, no, I get a text back or whatever. I'm like, okay, I feel like we've maybe lowered our
confirm, show up on time,
standards.
hold the door.
Right? I'm like, wait, why are we like saluting this dude for sending, like leaving a voicemail, like calling you? It's just crazy. But yeah, we accept this standard and it perpetuates, right? So it's like it's a race to nowhere. This is rough.
That's a race to mediocrity, yeah.
Right? Exactly. And it's like we got to show people what we expect, and we got to, hold them to higher standards and hold ourselves to higher standards too, right? Like it's just it's sad that we've gotten to this place where there's such a wow effect to receiving a voicemail. That's just insane to me.
It's a voicemail, and I go back to customer service again. Saying this out loud, I really do. I start to empathize with my parents and grandparents, because now I'm at that stage, I guess, where it's like, oh, give me hard candy, you bet, and I'm ready to sit there and talk about the good old days. But it's just, when someone actually, I like Chick-fil-A. Okay, I'm from the South. I like Chick-fil-A.
It's delicious.
It's delicious, isn't it? Who cares what you agree with, whatever they do corporately, but they're pretty damn good. And their customer service is great. And we joke about it now because you're like, oh, well, you're attentive, you get it right, you communicate, you're considerate, and yet you go somewhere else and you're like, oh my God, you just expect to be ignored or treated like crap or whatever.
That's a really great example, because recently,
do it yourself.
Yeah, recently my family went to Chick-fil-A for the first time, and we're like, oh my gosh, like we couldn't believe the level of service. We're like, this is unreal. Like, are we actually at a fast, like you said,
pleasure.
The bar's been they were like, came and checked on us like 5 times. They're like, can we get you anything? I was like, oh, what? Like, I've been to a fancy restaurant that didn't do that. Like, it was just crazy. But yeah, I think the bar has just fallen. It has fallen so far, and our expectations are low, I suppose.
Well, it comes
key
back
to life. Low expectations.
I hope I hope that the pendulum swings back the other way. And you said this word earlier, and this is not generational. I think it's societal right now, but the lack of respect is really it, and that's just it. Respect at your workplace, respect at the grocery store, respect online, respect anything, and I think it's become so easy to again take that path of least resistance, to hide behind shit that we just don't think about. Oh wow, you have, if you want to go another way, I'll light this up. There's stuff that back in the I say back in the day, good God. Things that
How to
I know,
get younger people to tune out, right?
Well, here's the thing.
Back in the day.
There's an upcoming guest on my podcast is the author of a new book, and I'm gonna mutilate the title, but it is Please Tell My Kid What to Do. Okay, and what it is she did research globally on how cultures raise children, and how often in other cultures, not in America, when I grew up, look, if I was going to be a little shithead, my mom didn't have to be around, because I guarantee you someone else is going to call me out on it. Okay.
Oh yeah, that doesn't really happen now.
That does not happen anymore. And so she's going to be a guest on the Advanced Consulting Podcast.
That's awesome.
I'm very excited about that. We're going to talk about this, about how other cultures raise it and how we probably used to. But Shan and I are out shopping this weekend, and we're mauling these kids in front of us. I say kids are probably like maybe 17 or so, and just how they're talking to other people, whatever. And I said, excuse me, are you in line? Huh? And then I said, excuse me, because I didn't hear. I said, excuse me, are you in line? Yeah.
Oh,
and
attitude.
Granted, I'm also fifth generation Texan, so there is this idea of, I do buy into the old school, how about a little bit of manners?
Yeah.
And it was just so funny, because we look at each other and we're like, what the hell is that?
Who do you think
so wrong?
Yeah.
And,
That's just weird.
and would my kids ever do that? No.
No.
But
Well,
anyway.
I don't think they would. And I mean, gosh, it's sad that we're at this point of incivility. And, there's something that came out recently, I forget which survey it was, but it was talking about how incivility in the workplace is on the rise and how damaging that is to organizations where people are just doing these kind of like low grade toxic workplace things, these just like casual affronts to others, and just like there's nothing to it, right? And so whether that's your boss throwing you under the bus or, someone giving you side eye during a meeting or making a cutting remark, like these things are on the rise, and it's making us a lot less happy and a lot less productive.
Sure. Well, and go ahead.
Makes sense. Oh, no,
yeah.
Makes sense.
Well, I think one reason for that, okay, again, unpopular opinion. I know people will light me up on this one, but it's the idea of there are no consequences. There's zero consequences because, people have become brazen with that. The keyboard warrior. Then I've responded to people online with this who, just things that the vitriol, the things that people will say, comment to me online. I go, I guarantee you, if you came here and were standing 18 inches away from me and you say that, you would not.
You'll be sorry.
Your tune would change dramatically.
You got the pit in the background. Yeah.
I guarantee you.
People are golden. It's absolutely true.
Or in a meeting, the side eye, the whatever, you're like, hey,
hello.
Sometimes you call your person out. Sometimes you do that privately.
Yep. No, people are just out there. There is, I think, a lack of responsibility and accountability taken a lot of the times, right? And these things, they're like a cancer. They keep growing at the organization. They keep on poisoning other people. And you got to cut it out. Like I was part of an organization that had this horribly toxic, completely ineffective leader. And I'm not kidding, literally 9 people in his organization, which wasn't that big, were like, peace. By the time I found the right job that I wanted to get me out the door, when I gave my exit interview and I told my HR person that I was leaving, she was like, hey, can you hold on like a couple more weeks because we're going to have some changes that I think you'll be really excited about. And I was like, no, I'm gone. I'm gone. You had all the signs. Pay attention to the signs. You cannot keep toxic leaders. It'll push out all your high performers, people who have the choice to go elsewhere. It's common sense that ain't common, right? And it's very frustrating to see, also all of this nonsense internally at a lot of these bigger tech companies that are happening right now, where it's like the performance ratings are all changing and they're getting culling workers at the lower part who are, I'm sure, probably like super high performing anyway. And what is created is this like dog eat dog, Lord of the Flies, like backstabbing culture at these organizations where you have a bunch of people who are in, CYA, cover your ass mode. I got to keep my job, right? So they're throwing people under the bus right and left. Like the people have reached out to me. They're like, dude, it is fucking awful to work in these environments right now. No one's safe. There's no one you can trust. And you better believe those people, they're not looking out for the company. They're not thinking about the customers. They're thinking about themselves, and who could blame them? But it's created this just awful mess. And it's like, dude, why don't we just do better? Like, we're humans. Can we please have a little progress here and have some civility and kindness and lead with respect? And when companies create these sorts of systems, it creates this environment, and it's awful.
Well, I think it's interesting. And again, I'll put the former headhunter hat back on. It's the idea of, you're exactly right. I mean, toxic leadership, it trickles down, but that also goes from building a culture, goes to the people you let in. And I used to tell my clients, I go, you're a bouncer. Okay. You're a bouncer at a very exclusive club. And when you think about this, okay, so you've built this fantastic environment, this fantastic culture. You're a great team, all of this. And the moment you let somebody, you let somebody behind that velvet rope there, who's just a troublemaker, piece of shit, whatever, they may be a high performer. They may bring in great revenues, but they are garbage, and they are going to completely just piss in the pool. And that's it. You're the bouncer. And we don't think about that because, and look, I've experienced it firsthand. I mean, it's just, everything's going great. Oh, but we got to grow because this guy will bring this huge book, or this guy will do this. And okay, cool. But he also has a massive cocaine habit, and he's been sued twice. Okay. But hey, he produces. He's great. And when that happens,
oh man,
you see, look, you may not like the answer, but it's the answer. But it's That's when your people who built your culture, who built your company, who are those foundational pieces, that's when they say, I'm out.
100%. There are consequences to that. There really are. And there are actually financial consequences to that as well. I mean, think of all the turnover and all the different training costs to upskill, reskill, hire new people, all of that. There's a cost, people. Don't hire jerks. It's a cancer. It's just, I don't, but with a lot of leadership examples out there, I will not go into all of them. Jerks are kind of winning right now, it seems. So it's a sad, sad state of affairs, I would say.
Everything's cyclical. Everything is cyclical.
Yeah.
Like I said, I hope the pendulum swings back.
And it will, and I hope that we get to a more caring world. And, something that you talk about a lot on your show, which I think is important and focusing on, and I hope that an increasing number of organizations will shed light on the reality of this, right, is caregiving and how much that takes in someone's life, in energy, in planning, time, resources, everything, and how employers either are or aren't there to help people with that and recognize that that's a reality for so many people. We're getting older very, very quickly as a country. The demographic change is upon us, as our friend Bradley Sherman often talks about, right? This is real. And employers need to wake up to this, because if they don't, they're going to be in a world of pain. But maybe share with us a little bit more about your own caregiving experience in your journey as having to try to balance it all, right?
Well, and we talk about caregiving in the traditional sense of, hey, caring for an aging parent. I mean, that idea of, between your demographic through mine are really that sandwich generation. And if you've heard that term, that's probably one of the more accurate ones out there. That is not a cool marketing term. That's not something, that sounds cool. That's a real deal, because we're feeling the squeeze, and older millennials are now, because here you are, many of them are having children, okay? They're in your prime earning years, your prime career years, and yet you're faced with, how do I manage my own life at home, my own relationships, whether you have kids or not, okay, my own relationships, my own desires, and pit that against, I have an aging mom or dad. I have someone who I have to take care of, who's in decline. That is one of the unspoken truths that are out there. And, that word that I love so much and believe in is equalizers. It doesn't matter your income, your background, your education. Many of us are going through this. And I think that the challenge here is, from a company perspective, is going to be, used to, you could silo your life and work. And it was two silos. It was personal and professional. And now they bleed over so much. The expectation is you're on Zoom, you're available, you have 24/7 access. I think Gen Z is crushing it and has the right idea with, hey, 5 o'clock, F you, I'm out, I'm done.
Uses, okay? Yeah, 100%.
So yeah, I'm on vacation, it's me time. They're doing it right, actually. They're
teaching us all.
Their way of going about it and their delivery and communicating it might not be so great, but
sometimes could use improvement. Yeah.
Yeah. They could use a little communication tip, but they have the right idea. But for so many of us, man, that's the hard thing, because we, as an employer, hey, I want you to be present. I want you to be there. I want you to get your head in the game. I want you to be fully here right now. Okay. How can you do that when either you're figuring out, hey, mom fell, mom has dementia, dad, I got to figure, I'm battling with my sister because we got to figure out if dad's in a home and how we're going to pay for that. These are real things. They're not the sexy go sit on a beach in Cabo. That's real shit. And that's a real deal right there. Meanwhile, am I ever going to be able to retire? I'm 50 something. I'm too old to hire, and I'm just dealing with this. Oh, by the way, I got kids who are going in college, and I'm having to, foot that nut right there.
Mm-hmm.
As an employer.
It's real.
Or look, I just had Tamsin Fidel on a week ago. We just recorded that, and he's talking about menopause. Okay, and look, that's a real deal as well. Your own physiological changes that are going on that affect you, your body, your mindset, your mental health, all of this.
51% of the population, folks.
51%. Absolutely. Yep. And so I'm telling you, I mean, look, I'm not saying drop everything and devote tons of financial resources to it, but just be aware.
Yeah, exactly. Meet the moment.
stop down and go, hey, you good?
Yeah.
You all right? I mean, talk to me. Tell me what's up.
Right.
I mean, I think that's the thing. And, it's, again, I'm the king of mutilating quotes, but it's Hemingway had a quote, and it was this idea of, look, at my darkest periods, I don't always tell me what to do. Tell me, or just be there for me. Just listen, just acknowledge. And that's really what so many of us want. And I think that's probably the best leader that you could be, is instead of, hey, did you get that on time? What's this out? What's this? It's just, hey, what's going on? What's that shit? Oh my God. Good example. Cheesy example. I'm also the king of cheesy examples. The new Suits reboot, the Suits LA.
I haven't seen it. How is it?
It's okay.
Solid?
It's like nobody's Harvey Specter. Okay.
I mean, that's tough to follow.
It's good, but there's a scene in it because we watched it, and one of the partners there, she's all type A, hard charging, and she goes up to one of her associates and was like, "No, you need to be." The girl had just hung up the phone, finding out that her pet passed away. Okay, whether it's a pet passing away, whether it is one of these other significant issues, people have lives. And this girl just rolled over her. Like, if you want your career, you need to have your ass at this dinner, blah, 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 blah. When really, all we want sometimes is, hey, I see you're off. What's up? What's up?
Exactly. That goes so far in a manager. Oh my gosh. Like, I still remember it was after, we've been through a lot of unprecedented times in the recent last, let's say 5 years, right? Like, you keep on thinking we've reached the bottom and then something sinks lower. But I remember after one such unprecedented time, I think it was the invasion of Ukraine, and then Uvalde happened like in short succession. And I was like, we were just coming out of COVID. Like, I was just getting my stride back. And my boss at the time, knowing that I'm an empath, knowing that I'm a human with children and all that, he reached out to me and he was like, hey, how you doing, Mo? Are you about to like run off into the forest, never come back? And I was like, basically. But the fact that he reached out and didn't just like pretend that everything was normal meant so much to me. And he's the kind of leader I'd follow moving forward, right? It's just being human. Right?
It's being a human. And again, another overused LinkedIn word in the HR world there. Okay. Be humans.
Yeah.
Shit. Okay. Yeah. Don't make it a mandate. Just be it.
Yeah. Just be it.
And I think it's also, I hate the woo-woo word, but giving space. What does that actually mean? That means allowing someone to be open without repercussions, without the idea of, hey, you know what?
It's going in your file.
I'm coming apart here. Okay. Yeah. I'm coming unglued, just because I think at least I'd say for Gen X, and especially, male Gen Xers, I'm good. I'm good. Mm-hmm. I'm good. I'm tough. I got it. No, you're not. No, you're not, man. It's okay. No. It's okay.
But I do think sometimes it can be a very, very tough thing to do, to be that open at work, right? I have a friend who's going through cancer, and she's like, dude, not telling my boss about this. Like, this is not going to help me keep my job, that's a sad reality too.
It doesn't mean, it doesn't mean, here's the thing. There's a difference between being open and oversharing. Okay. And just like on a date too. Okay? And there's a whole other rabbit hole we can go on train wreck that have occurred there. But it's, there's a difference between being open and just saying, hey, I know I need to be here, but I have some stuff in my personal life right now, or some stuff I'm really dealing with. Don't want to share, but I need to be. Okay. And, that takes some courage for an individual to say, but it takes even more courage for a boss or someone to go, I hear you. I see you. We're good. Okay. It's the hard part.
But if they only did that, the amount of loyalty and the amount of hard work that you would get from your employees would just like skyrocket. That's just the reality. When people treat you with that level of respect and kindness, you want to work harder for them. It is just how that goes. If you treat me dismissively, if you're rude, if you, make negative comments or whatever, I'm doing the bare minimum for you. That's all you're going to get. And by the way, I'm leaving.
Oh, you'll get me that time. I'll get that project done. I'll crush it. Mm-hmm. But I'm remembering that.
Oh, yeah.
And the moment. Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's, again, common sense, we're common. But no.
It ain't. I really wish it were. Maybe next lifetime? I don't know. We'll see.
But I think that's the thing, though, is Yeah, and that's what, look, that's an advanced adulting thing. That is also that's an advanced adulting thing, but I also think it's an ageism thing too. I've had this conversation with Bradley Sherman on this, and it was, and Carl Honore as well. It was this idea of, again, people are going to crucify me on this one.
You've said that a lot this
I
conversation.
do, because I know people's hot buttons.
Like, I know what's coming.
Buttons. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll say what people are thinking, but you're not going to fix ageism.
Oh, fuck no.
Okay.
There's no way.
Or there's laws on that. Okay.
How are they working out for you?
Yeah, I speed as well. But it's there's certain things that you can say, this is how it ought to be, or the right thing, but you won't know until you experience it. And I believe growing older and everything surrounding ageism, whether it is raising children, whether it is the workplace, whether it's anything, you don't know until you can conceptually understand it, but you will not process it until you are there. And how many times has our parents, oh, just you wait till you're my age, just you wait till you have kids. Oh, that's it. And I remember being that kid, again, I wrote the book on Gen X in my 20s. Okay. I thought I had my shit figured out. And so, and then you realize, oh, that's what they meant. I didn't expect that.
You don't know until you're there. You don't know until you've lived it, which is, again, why it's so important to have people who it really just are across all different group representations within your organization. Because if you don't know, you can't really spot it, right? Like, if you haven't been there and in someone's shoes, you can't spot it. But, I think one thing I'll say about the anti-ageism movement that I am heartened by, and the fact that ageism is coming up as a topic in even mainstream media and on the silver screen, is that younger people, I believe, are going to be aware of it at a much earlier stage of life in a way that is going to be impactful, because ageism also gets younger people. And you have Gen Z facing a freaking disaster of a job market, a white collar recession, and they're seeing their age is being used against them. So I think the fact that it's happening now at that level to that group means that we'll probably, hopefully, have a little bit more kindness and compassion towards other people who just so happen to have been born at a different time than we were, right? Well, so we're all going through this thing together.
It is. It is the ultimate equalizer. Okay, because I will never know what it's like to be a woman. I will never know what it's like to be a black man. But you know what? Everybody knows what it's like to get older.
Get older, exactly.
You can be an ally, an advocate, all of that. But you will experience.
Yep.
I don't care who you are. You will experience getting older and those things.
Exactly.
Hey, we're going to get back to the conversation in just a second, but I want to take a minute to thank our sponsor, Jubilee TV, and tell you about something that's going to be pretty important to you if you have an older parent or loved one, whether they live across town or halfway around the world. See, being a caregiver doesn't necessarily mean living under the same roof. It can look a lot of different ways. It can mean checking in on them. It could mean reminding them, hey, you need to take your meds, helping your mom with the remote for the 15,000th time. Regardless of how it looks for you, caregiving can be a lot. It can wear you down, and you can't always be there. That's why Jubilee TV is such an important thing for caregivers and their families. It's a simple device that lets you make the most out of something that you're already using, your TV. You can call your mom right on the TV. You can change the channel for her halfway around the world. You can literally turn the TV off when the news is stressing her out. God knows I've been there. There's no new tech for them to learn. It's simple, it's easy to install, it's affordable. Caregiving isn't always about convenience or tasks. It's about connection. And Jubilee TV helps you stay connected. To learn more or get yours, go to getjubileetv.com and use code ADULTING for a discount. Jubilee TV is the peace of mind you didn't know that you needed until now. Now, let's get back to the conversation.
Well, look, when I entered the job market, there were two generations. I mean, those are facts. Okay. You had Gen X and boomers. That was it. Now we have 5. Okay. And so to be aware that, again, the idea of diversity of thought is a good thing, is a great thing. And to be able to recognize and be open to, hey, maybe someone who's been there before, maybe they don't have to do it like them. Maybe it's not the way, but it is a way. I mean, it's
info, it's data, right?
Like, we study history for a reason.
Right.
And
or some of us do.
Well, I think there's a benefit to that. And like I said, I don't want to, sound like a total cynic when I say you're not going to fix it. I think you're going to create awareness with it, but do I think that there's always going to be there?
Oh,
Absolutely.
absolutely.
You got the young buck that thinks they're badass, smarter, faster, can jump higher and is just better. You're going to have that. And that's
He'll
okay.
learn. And that's all right. Okay. It's just part of the system. It is how it is. And, we can create awareness. We can create sort of mechanisms to, not completely probably eradicate it, but at least navigate it. And that's just how it's going to go. So, I mean, I think there's a certain amount of hand wringing over it. That's just at some point it just becomes unproductive. And it's like, okay, so now what? What do we do? How do we move forward? And, obviously awareness and education is good, but it's not going to solve it. I totally agree with you. It's just so embedded in our DNA. It just is.
Well, and it's so funny because I see a lot of people, a lot of my peers and a lot of people on my platforms who will comment about this. And I think that's one of the things about for Gen Xers are experiencing. Is it wrong? Yes. Does it suck and hurt? Absolutely. But it's real. And your choices are to bemoan the fact, or, you're not going to change somebody's mind. You're just not. Okay. So what can you do? You can adapt. And one of my things, I saw an interview with, look, we're not always going to be, young, beautiful, wrinkle free and have hair. Okay. As evidence, but it was an interview with Ethan Hawke. Okay. And he was talking about the moment he realized he was going to have to make some dramatic changes to his career. And it was this idea how he had been up for these, leading man roles. And he goes, they asked me to come in and read, but it wasn't for that. It was like, he goes, oh shit.
It's happening.
I'm now that old, the older man, and I'm now the dad in the movie. I'm now this.
The bit part, not the main show. Yeah.
Because I'm going to have to figure out how I want to adjust to this. I can sit there and try and, hang on to it, or I can evolve, and I thought that was really smart. And there's a clip out there of that he does just a phenomenal job of explaining it. But I think that extends to us in our personal lives, to us in our careers as leaders, as, leaders in your family, leaders
as visionary thought leaders.
Oh, yes, as your visionary thought leader.
Yeah, exactly. I will say one hopeful element of what you just said. So the Ethan Hawke thing, I love that he's just like recognizing this is a thing and he needs to contend with it. And it's like, you might not like this reality. It's an inconvenient truth, but it's here. But I do think that there's also a shift to having more representation and more main characters who are older. And you see it over and over again in the movies that are happening. Some are even actually pointedly talking about ageism, like The Substance with Demi Moore, with the Last Showgirl with Pamela Anderson. Like, people are actually having this conversation, and these are not bit characters. They are the main character. So there's like this midlife main character thing that's happening, and that gives me a lot of hope, because it's not like, oh, you're done. It's like, no, you can still you can be the main storyline here. You're not some bit part. So I think there is a shift there, which I'm heartened by, because then that could trickle down into society, and maybe we won't be like, whatever, Karen, because you're like middle age or whatever, right?
Yeah. I think there's an old movie clip, and I think it's with Barbara Stanwyck, okay? Which I don't ever expect you.
I'd like Barbara Streisand, I know.
Yeah, again, I like movies and entertainment, so I can pull all this stuff, but I don't expect you to know who she is.
Okay, good. Okay?
But listen, it's an older movie, and very powerful scene, okay? Because she's up there, and she is making a case, and she's crying and demonstrably saying, you see age, you see me as an old woman, but I live, I feel, I have dreams, I have desires. It'll choke you up. But you think about that. Every single one of us, okay? It doesn't matter if you are 42, 52, 62. That's the one thing no one told me about getting older, okay? Outside of the fact that my knees creak a lot, okay? I feel a certain age. I feel infinitely younger than my age indicates.
We present, yeah.
And I had a conversation with a friend of mine this morning, and he's, it's funny, the outside looking in, okay? Big time interior designer in Aspen. I mean, you look at his life and you go, this guy's living the life. And we're in similar age. And it was just interesting how we were talking about how you feel young. You feel, not even say young. You just feel like, hey, I have a lot of gas in the tank. And there's a lot I still want to do. But it's that awareness, that realization that, oh my God, the clock is ticking. And there is not, as we're approaching 60, that sounds old, yet there's so much to do. And you have this evaluation of what's next. Do I want to stay here? Do I want to just embrace this world that I've created? Or do I want to move somewhere else? Do I want to go explore different things? Do I want to try new things? And I think that is so important. And, again, I think everyone thinks that. And that's not to say that, hey, you have to have a cool lifestyle or live in a certain place or have a shit ton of money or anything. It's just a matter of, I think there comes this time. I think it occurs when you have a big life event like a divorce. I think maybe lose a job, okay, a big career pivot. When you become an empty nester, maybe you lose a parent, or maybe it's some sort of pivotal birthday or something. But each of us are different, and that's when you kind of go, huh? It's not a midlife crisis. It's not. And I sure as hell I'm not going to call it the midlife awakening or chrysalis. Okay, but it's just kind of like,
don't lie to us. You're going back and you're like TMing it.
No, it's already been done. But I mean, I think that's the thing is you just start realizing, hey, I've had some good times. I've had some bad times. And there's a lot more to do. What am I going to do? I think that's the thing. We have this ability to reinvent ourselves or tweak it, so to speak, and every aspect of our lives. Okay. You're not, and we've said this a lot in terms of careers, but it's in everything. You're not done. I think that's the point.
Not done till you're done.
You're not done until you are, a crispy critter or you are 6 feet under. That's it. I mean, You're not done until it is over.
Yeah.
And I think the thing that I know that a lot of my contemporaries are thinking is, what do I want to do? Time is short. There's a lot of world to see. This has gotten me to this point to become the man that I am. But what type of man or woman do I want to be moving forward on that? And I think that's a huge piece. While you still can't, mobility, longevity, health, I think these are questions that everybody asks, and there's no roadmap for. And I think that my big leave behind for a lot of people is going to be, and you're not alone in this, because we don't talk about these things. And you do see the social media people, and it's all the, look, if you haven't hit it yet, it's Gary Vee, love him or hate him. He does a lot of talk on this whole, you've got time. Yes. I don't know how much time I've got. I could be hit by a bus tomorrow. I have friends that, get a diagnosis and they have 18 months. I have friends that are crushing it at 80 plus. God willing, I got a long time ahead of me. But it's this idea of, can you sit around and wait, or can you give yourself that permission and freedom to say, okay, I can give it a shot.
Yeah. To do what you want, not what someone else told you should want, right? What you want.
Or that you've been kicked in the ass a lot. A lot of us have gotten to that point where, hey, you know what? You've been kicked around a little bit.
Yeah.
And just because you've had, I love this. You're not defined by your best day or your worst day. You're just not. It's a timeline that extends for a long period of time. And yet we overemphasize I had a shitty marriage. Oh, I did this. Oh.
The negative things just stick with us. It's like we can't get them out of our brains, but we forget all the wins, right? We forget the other things that make us who we are. It's true.
And nobody's going to, you said it earlier. Nobody cares.
Nobody cares.
Nobody cares. They're figuring their own shit out.
And the people who matter, they're going to be rooting for you. They're going to want the best for you, period. Full stop. And that should be what you want, not what they want, not what society wants, right? Not what we've been told our whole lives. So I find age to be just totally liberating because, and I jokingly refer to these as my no fucks 40s, because I give so far fewer fucks than I ever did before, because I have the confidence and the belief in myself. I know who I am. And if someone doesn't see that, or someone wants to think something differently of me, okay, it's none of my business. You guys do you. That's fine. But I know the way I want to move forward in the world and what matters to me and how I want to show up. And I'm just going to go chase that, because as you pointed out, we never know how much time we have, right? And it could be a day, it could be, 40 years, who knows, maybe longer. But the reality is, like, we all just have to go for what we want and age the way we want. Don't do it the way someone else tells you to. That's been the biggest lesson for me in all of this, is talking to people and just watching the people who actually embraced what they wanted. Sometimes it's kind of forced upon them, right? Like some circumstances befall you that you don't necessarily have agency in, but making the most of what you can impact, like that is compelling to me. That's inspiring to me.
Well, you use that word impact, and I think that's a critical word, because a lot of things I see in the aging and midlife space is the purpose, the legacy. Okay, cool. Are you going to have a building named after you or on a mountain? No, because the cold, cruel facts are 4 generations. You'll only be remembered 4 generations, max. That's it. And so the point is, be a good person. Leave an impact on the world around you right now, on the people who you love, on the people who you actually do have an influence over.
Totally agree.
Okay. And I think
what really matters.
Yeah, that's what really matters. And I think I've kind of redefined, this whole thing of, no one's going to remember that blog post you wrote. Nobody's going to remember all this other bullshit. It's going to be what is my impact right now on the people I love, the people who I have come in contact with, and the experience I have while I'm breathing air and pumping blood right now.
Yep.
That's it.
And your local community, right? Like all of that. Totally agree. We get caught up in the wrong things, and oftentimes we find out too late that they were the wrong things. And so my hope is that we can wake people up and let them know, like, this is what actually matters. It's not what some self-proclaimed guru on LinkedIn tells you about owning 7 Lambos by 25. Like, that doesn't fucking matter. And what you want does, and the people around you who you care about do, right?
I want to revisit one thing about you and your background. We talked a lot about a lot of things, as this was designed to do, but we talked about ageism and how, with so many generations in the workplace, where people are encountering it earlier and younger. And I know there's some differences, not just ageism, but sexism as well. And what I wanted to do for a second is I'd love you to share kind of your experience in this, because, a lot of people would think, oh, she's the cynics on my end of the street might go, oh, she's 42. She's a baby. She's good.
What does she know about ageism?
Yeah, what does she know about this?
Yeah, totally.
But you do. And I think that your example is a great one that speaks to this. So if you'd share that with folks.
Yeah. So, I was called a dino at age 37 at my tech company by my younger colleague, and he was joking, but he was actually not wrong. Like, compared to the people around me, I was one of the oldest people. The C-suite, there were multiple people there who were younger than I was. Like, I saw a dearth of older people at the organization. And then I realized, like, oh my gosh, this wasn't just at this smaller VC-backed startup. This was like literally at Bloomberg. Like, when I lived in New York and worked for Bloomberg, I was like, yeah, wait, there were no older people. And then when I worked at Court TV and television news, prior to that, I noticed the intensity of the ageism around me for the on-air talent. And the dudes had silver hair and they were still in the anchor desk. And then the women had to look at least 20 years younger than their age. So when I saw that, I was like, oh, this might not be like a long-term thing for me as a woman. So I recognized it from a pretty early age in my career. But then it was really crystallized when that comment was made. It was like that aha moment. And that's when I started having conversations with people where I was like, hey, you guys like worried about this? Because like no one is older in our organization, and like people don't just like disappear, and everyone's working to 80 now and like live into 100. So like, how does this math work out? No one's saving enough for retirement, and everyone was worried about it. Everyone was like, oh yeah, I think about aging out. That's what they called it, aging out, all the time. And I'm like, but why is no one freaking talking about it? And this was a time when, a lot of conversations were happening around diversity, equity, and inclusion in the workplace. And I was like, dude, this is the one thing that unites all of us. Like literally every single one of us will face ageism. I learned every one of us, meaning also people think you can be too young, which I did not know going into this, right? I didn't really think about it that way. But that's the thing as well. But I was like, everybody who's lucky enough to live to a certain age is going to experience this. Why don't we actually talk about it, bring it out from under this rug that we all sweep it under so often, and like have this discussion, because work is one of the most important forces in all of our lives. It's so core to a lot of Americans' sense of self and who we are. And certainly it's how most of us who are not independently wealthy have to get by on this planet, right? You got to earn a dollar. So that's why I started the show. And I felt like it was high time, overdue, very overdue for conversation and a platform to create awareness and we've kind of touched on this throughout the course of this conversation, but I didn't want it merely to be a place where people just sit around and bitch about it and complain. I wanted it to be a place where people, yeah, sure, get validated. Yeah, sure, get educated, learn, spread awareness about this force, but also learn how they can handle this inconvenient truth that it exists. Because like we've said, it's not going away. This is something that is just a core part of humanity. It's a bias that we have and we hold. I don't think that's going to ever be fully eradicated. So like, how do we coexist with it and how do we thrive in our own ways? So, and through the show, I mean, I've met incredible people. I mean, it's funny, we've had a lot of the same guests. We have Bradley Sherman, Carl Honore, Tamsin Fadal, you name it. We've had a lot of people who've shared our proverbial stages, which has been so awesome. So met incredible humans. But it's also shown me over the course of doing all this, like there are different aspects to ageism. There are different sort of intersectionalities with other sorts of groups and statuses that like do make it worse. So for example, like ageism is going to hit women earlier, right? Like the EEOC just busted a company last year for using AI to screen out applicants, and they were screening out people who were women at the age of 55 and men who were at the age of 60. So men got an extra 5 years in there where they were deemed effective hires, right? So that's one example. Then you also have to just look into the beauty industry and, Hollywood and see how that plays out there. And that trickles down to all of us, right? So women have to face this pressure to look younger. We pump like deadly neurotoxins via needles into our face and pay hundreds or thousands of dollars for it. Like we're all chasing youth. We are all chasing the fountain of youth. And it's something that is really complicated because there is a cost and a privilege almost. There's a privilege almost to be able to just like show up and age, more naturally, if you will, quote unquote, because it's kind of a liability, honestly, to some people. And trying to get a job, it's cool if you're Demi Moore and you're saying, hey, I'm 60. She looks like Demi Moore. She's in Hollywood and she has to look a certain way. It's
back to my Beckham example. Yeah, it's great. Right? It's more just, I think, and I'm glad for Demi Moore. I love Pam Anderson. I love that movie. I think she's on. I love Paulina Poroskova, what she's done. But I just think sometimes it is a bit defeating when you're seeing, these are, hey, look, it's great when you're loaded and you're a star and you can do all this. But the everyday person.
That's the thing. And I hope that that's the next sort of domino that falls. I think that, having that representation, even if the representation looks like Pam Anderson and Demi Moore, that's a start, right? That's a start. But I do want to really acknowledge, like, I applaud them for having these conversations. Brooke Shields wrote a book called Brooke Shields Isn't Allowed to Get Old. If that doesn't nail it, I don't know what will. And that's true of women too, across all industries, in all of society. It's a very hard thing for us to contend with. I think there's a lot of anxiety that we feel about it. And, who could blame us? We've been fed these messages our whole lives. We've been buying these anti-aging beauty products our entire lives, right? It's just a thing. And so I think the fact that these women who have this, stature in society, that have all this wealth, that they're Hollywood stars, the fact that they're talking about it is good because it's setting it out there for us to see and start to absorb and talk about. But there is an inherent privilege that's awarded to them by virtue of who they are and what they do and the money they have, that they can go out there and be like, yeah, I'm 65 and own it. The average woman trying to get a tech job right now is not going to come out there and fly a flag saying I'm 65. Like most women are not going to do that. And the women who I've spoken with in my community who are trying to find corporate jobs in their 60s, oh my gosh, like if I read you the DMs, you would cry. Like it's so hard. So I hope one day we can get to a point where that's possible, where people don't look at it the way that they currently do. But, it's a thing. But yeah, women have to face it earlier, and it's, I think, more intense. But ageism is real for everyone. And, I've met people. I met a server at a restaurant recently who, she asked me what I did for a living. I told her about my podcast, It Gets Late Early. And she said, oh my gosh, I am so glad you're talking about this. My dad lost his job when I was in middle school, and I will never forget what it did to our family. This was a white woman, by the way. But she was like, my dad lost it. It was his whole identity. It was what kept our family afloat. He was a single household earner. It killed his sense of self, his confidence. He walked around in a depressed haze. So that ripple effect went out into her family, into her community. He eventually found another job, but he had to pivot to an entirely new industry, and he had to get paid far less. it is real and it impacts all of us. So it's something I think perversely we can all unify behind. But yeah.
Well, it is. I use the word equalizer, and when it happens, it happens.
Yep.
And look, this is little consolation for anyone, for men or women. But I think one of the takeaways from this is, yes, it exists and it's awful. But most importantly, at least with the folks that I encounter, we do put so much of our self-esteem, our self-worth, oftentimes our identity into a career, that when you experience ageism like this, the default mechanism is, what's wrong with me? Okay. Why me? And it's not you. It is not you. It's not you suck. It's not, your resume's not good enough. Any of these things. It's not, I need more skills. I need more certifications. It's not, should I dye my hair? It's not those things. It's not you. And I think this is just, it's not good, but that's the biggest thing, is it happens across the board. And when you, like I said, little consolation, but when you can at least kind of remind yourself of that, tell yourself that over and over. This isn't me. I don't suck. I don't have, I have value. I can produce value, but it's not you. And that breaks my heart when I talk to people and they're just like, what they think there's a silver bullet. Is it my resume? Is it, do I dye this? Is it? No, it's not. You have to just, I'm not saying lower your standards, but you need to really change, you need to be the best you can be and redefine how you are right now.
Yes. And actually, there is a point to be made here. It's not always ageism. Sometimes you're not coming to the job interview in the right way. Sometimes you haven't prepared yourself in the right way. Like, you can't always call it that. Sometimes it absolutely is. So validating that for sure, but just making sure that you do everything in your power to show up in the best possible way, which, by the way, I want to validate. If you have been trying to get jobs for like a year and you can't, oh my God, that's so hard to show up to as your quote best self and to do all the things right when you've been just kicked in the stomach for like a year and you're stressed and your self-confidence is down. Like, that is so challenging. But yeah, I think it's important that people do not necessarily kind of hide behind that as the reason. Like, I think a lot of us want to find like a reason that's outside of our control for why things aren't happening for us. And so sometimes I think that can be an easy thing to say. Again, I'm not saying ageism isn't real. I'm absolutely saying that. I have a whole podcast about it. But also, like, take control of what you can control and do your best.
Well, and the punchline I'll put on this is, and I loved how you said it. It's not always ageism. Just because you didn't get it, just because they didn't like you, it's not ageism. Sometimes you suck.
Exactly.
Okay.
Sometimes it's you.
Sometimes it's you, and sometimes, again, my contacts, some of my virtue signaling contacts in the HR world, cringe at this. Hey, sometimes you're just not their flavor. Sometimes you are the best candidate, but you know what? So-and-so is going to be a better fit. They like so-and-so. Sometimes you remind them of their ex-wife or ex-husband. You remind them of that person that was. You can't control that. And, unfortunately,
either.
Well, you don't know. And look, it doesn't have to make sense. It doesn't have to be logical. That's the real world. And I think, I experienced that time and time again as a headhunter. I mean, I remember phenomenal candidate, CFO candidate, went in, crushed the interview, fantastic. I did the post interview with the candidate, thought it went well. I talked to the CEO. He's like, not going to hire him. I'm like, why? Gotta laugh like a clown. I can't deal with that. Pain in the ass.
Oh my God.
Is that horrible? Yes, but that's how decisions are made.
How it works. And it's not right. It's not fair. It just is. It just is. So yeah, let go of what you can, do your best. And yeah, it sucks. It's hard out there, but put yourself in the best possible place to land the job. And, you also got to think you'll find what's right for you, right? Like if you were to get in some place that had these sorts of biases and whatnot against people, like maybe it's not the place for you, right?
Exactly.
And again, I realize sometimes that's a relatively privileged thing to say. Sometimes you just need a job. Who cares, right? But it's rough out there. Be kind to your fellow human. Like, we're all in this thing together. We're all in this, life train together, and we just happen to be coming at it from different perspectives and been born at different times sometimes. So just don't be a jerk. Don't be a jerk.
Okay, so talk about different times and ages. So you've got a time machine, and you're going to go back, and you are going to go meet your younger self for coffee. So you get to go back 20 years.
I love that trend too.
What would you tell your younger self over coffee about being at this stage of life?
About this particular stage of life,
Mm-hmm.
I would tell my younger self not to fear it. I would tell my younger self to get excited about it, because new paths are going to be walked. New sorts of aspects of your personality are going to emerge. New passions are going to emerge. You're going to be doing what you want to do for you because it's what you want to do, not because your parents told you to, college told you to, society told you to. And you just have to trust your gut and just go for it. So not to equivocate, not to fear others' perception of you, because again, they're not even going to be friggin' thinking about you anyway. And what matters is what you think of you. So that's what I'd say to my younger people-pleasing self.
Very good.
Eldest daughter, eldest millennial. Yeah. Yeah. It's such a thing. So I'd be like, get out of your own way, man. That's what I'd say.
Out of your own way.
What about you? What would you tell younger Bradley?
Oh my God. You know, that's a novel in itself. It's horrible.
You wrote a book about
I did. It's so funny. So my middle child, he used to say this is, you know, I'll tell you the real answer in a second, but he's a smart ass. And for a long time, because, you know, he used to look like me. Okay. He looked a lot like me, except he had hair when he was younger. And he thought it'd be kind of funny. One time, you know, what if we went to like the mall or somewhere and we had someone film it, and I run up here, you run up to me and shake me and go, I'm from the future. Don't marry her. Don't marry. I'm like,
that sounds amazing.
That's bad. What for me? Hey, trust your gut. Believe in yourself. That is it. Believe in yourself. You're gonna, you know, more than anything is just be you. Just be you. You trust your gut. Be you. And the other thing I would say, and this is a hard lesson. Okay, I'd stick up for myself and tell more people to FO.
I like that.
And I mean that in terms of, you know, there is taking the high road and having integrity always. But there's also being a doormat, because you think, oh, well, it's okay. No. Sometimes it's okay to say, no, that doesn't work for me.
I love that.
At all.
Such a good lesson.
That's what I'd tell my younger self. It's okay to walk away. It's okay to say, nope, not going to do that. That's powerful. That's a powerful lesson there.
Power move. It's a power move.
So
that's it. May many younger people learn from our younger selves, what we would have told our younger selves.
Right. Exactly. Maureen, Wiley, Clough, thank you for being on Advanced Adulting.
Bradley Richardson, thanks for being on It Gets Late Early.